All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Rebecca Rear, Director of Climate Policy and Justice at the Maryland League of Conservation Voters. We're here today in Baltimore, outside this hotel where the PJM annual meeting is taking place. PJM is our regional grid operator, and the decisions they are making now affect energy prices and environmental quality for years to come. Soaring demand from data centers is sending electricity prices through the roof, and we're facing a real affordability crisis. Families are making difficult choices about which bills to pay or whether they can pay at all. Fossil fuel prices are extremely volatile, and utility profits only increase on the backs of ratepayers when they build the supporting infrastructure. The answers are clear. More clean energy on the grid for a more affordable future. A recent analysis found that if PJM were to allow more clean energy to connect to the grid, it would save each of its customers $500 a year in reduced energy bills. And even PJM itself has emphasized the importance of clean energy. In a recent court filing, they emphasized the importance of the offshore wind project in Virginia, saying it is an integral component of needed new generation that PJM has been relying upon. And in fact, delaying this project would cause harm. PJM's voting members are mostly the utilities and energy generating companies, with consumer advocates having a relatively small voice at the table. Today, low-income consumer advocates, environmental groups, and lawmakers are here together with a simple message to PJM. Let more affordable, clean energy onto the grid. I'm very pleased to welcome two Maryland elected officials, Senator Katie Frey-Hester, followed by Delegate Lorik Charkoudian, to start us off.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here this morning. I'm Maryland State Senator Katie Frey-Hester, proudly representing our 9th District, and I chair our Energy Subcommittee. I also founded the PJM Legislators Collaborative last year, and we are a bipartisan coalition of state elected officials representing the 13 PJM states and the District of Columbia. And we advocate for the interests of the 67 million ratepayers across PJM. As state legislators, we hear every day that the cost of energy is just too high. And that's why 100 state legislators, 13 governors, and the White House have stated that ratepayers must be protected from the costs of data centers. In addition, the giants in the AI industry claim to want to protect consumers as well with the White House Protection Pledge, which states companies will build, bring, or buy new generation resources and electricity needed to satisfy their energy demands. Now, PJM is forecasting 32 gigawatts of new energy over the next 8 years. And the Independent Market Monitor has said that 75% of the costs are being driven by these data center growth. Between 2025 and 2028, PJM has spent $21.3 billion lining up electricity supply for new data centers. And that's just for 2025 through 2028. The data centers are only paying 5% of that growth. The other $20 billion is billed to everyday electricity customers. And that has raised the average family's power bill $20 a month, at least. This massive capital outlay is why the legislators, governors, and White House all agree. We're completely aligned. However, these statements will only help bring ratepayers' bills down if PJM acts to enforce the rules. Despite being democratically elected representatives, we have no official voice at PJM. That is why we are here today, to repeat and reinforce what we have keep saying. We outlined in our original SIFI proposal last fall and in a letter to PJM this month that the PJM board must protect the public from these increased costs and reliability risks. The senior citizen living across the road from me on a fixed income can't continue to pay for them. The demands we are making today are three. Protect the public from increased reliability risks by ensuring the large loads operate flexibly until they are supported by deliverable new supply. Remove the large loads that do not bring their new supply from the base residual auction. And design the reliability backstop auction to include truly new resources. As we enter the meetings today, myself and many of the legislators here have passed legislation this year to ensure state utility commissioners deliver new rate class structures that require data centers to bring their own energy. In fact, here in Maryland, we're leading the way in data center policy. Delegate Lori Charkoudian and I have worked together on a lot of things. And this year we managed to update the large load data center tariff so that they pay for their own fair share. We've improved transparency and load forecasting to prevent the phantom loads. And we've established the clean capacity tariffs to incentivize those data centers that are willing to be good grid citizens. We hope PJM and the data centers themselves will work with us to develop long-term solutions to fix this $100 billion energy problem. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I screwed up somebody's. Okay. Good morning. How's everyone doing? I'm Delegate Lori Charkoudian, and I want to thank all the organizers and all my fellow legislators from across the region for joining us this morning for this really important conversation. Welcome PJM to Baltimore and to Maryland, and welcome the continued conversation with PJM. So I want to start by saying that we did not have to be here. We actually could have avoided this moment if we had gotten clean energy and storage onto the grid at the pace that it was ready to get on this grid over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And that could have happened if PJM did not have a broken queue that kept that clean energy from coming on. If PJM did not have a broken queue that kept that clean energy from coming on at the time that the federal government was willing to invest billions into clean energy. If PJM did not have a biased capacity auction system that undervalued clean energy and undervalued storage. And so, but we are here. And we are here at a time where now, because that affordable clean energy and the magical storage did not get on the grid at the pace that it could have come on, we are now facing an affordability crisis and a reliability crisis. And we would be facing challenges in this moment, even if we had gotten that on, because the data center growth is really like something that we have never seen in our lifetimes before on this energy grid, and it is a challenge across the country. But it would not be this bad in PJM if the rules at PJM had not been consistently biased against affordable energy, in favor of corporations, and without regard to ratepayers. But here we are. And PJM still has a chance to get it right. And we continue to stand ready to engage with PJM, to invite them into the conversation to get it right. So now, as we're facing the new rules for the backstop procurement that they're about to file at FERC, PJM has a chance, for example, to build those rules so virtual power plants can be front and center, the fastest thing that PJM states could get online to respond to data center growth are virtual power plants, flexible load. And those are also happen to be clean. And so we don't face the environmental justice challenges with gas plants that PJM is trying to get built on this system. But PJM's backstop procurement proposal right now biases towards gas plants and against flexible load and against virtual power plants. And so it's one more example of where PJM has an opportunity to get it right, an opportunity to actually build the fastest and the cheapest things for our ratepayers to respond to reliability, and instead is taking a choice that is biased towards building gas plants, which will take longer, will be dirtier for our planet, for our communities, and in the long run will leave ratepayers on the hook. And so I could go on. The consideration of changes to the capacity market, how we're going to fix this interconnection queue going forward, whether or not surplus interconnection is really going to work to get the storage and the clean energy on. But I'll just say broadly, what we're asking for from PJM as we drill down into each of these areas is not just to give the lip service towards affordable energy, not just to give the lip service towards data centers paying their own fair share, but actually to build rules that allow affordable, clean energy to come online, because in the long term, that is going to be best for ratepayers, it is going to be best for our planet, and it is going to be best for our environmental justice communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we heard PJM is our regional grid, and it serves 67 million customers. So we're glad to welcome elected representatives from Pennsylvania and from New Jersey here today, whose constituents, like us in Maryland, are being directly impacted by PJM's decisions. We'll hear first from Pennsylvania Representative Danielle Otten, and then from New Jersey Assemblyman Dave Bailey.
Thank you. Thank you. When I grow up, I want to be able to speak about energy like Lorig Charkutian with no notes. Good morning. My name is Danielle Friel-Otten, and I represent 65,000 people in central Chester County, Pennsylvania. As a working mom, I talk to a lot of other working parents on the sidelines of soccer fields, lacrosse fields, and in our dance studio. And in those spaces, even in our more affluent suburb, the rising cost of electricity is one of the very first and most consistent things that my neighbors are talking about. An estimated 40% of Pennsylvania households, about 2.1 million people, are either living in poverty or what we call asset-limited, income-constrained, but employed, living paycheck to paycheck. For many working families, higher electric bills mean making a choice between keeping the lights on or buying groceries or medication. And for other families, those decisions that are being made right now at the end of the school year, higher bills mean that they can no longer afford the extras for their children, like sports and other enrichment activities. For school districts and municipalities, higher utility bills mean cuts to programs or a decision to increase local tax rates. For small businesses, it can mean putting off salary increases or investments in their company's growth. The decisions made inside this building this week will directly affect what regular ratepayers across the PJM region pay for electricity for years to come. And those small decisions that are being made right now in local municipalities, school districts, small businesses, and families are decisions that they can't have back. Families and small businesses are paying higher bills so that large corporations can power their servers and so that utilities and generators and CEOs can post record profits. A recent analysis found that opening the grid to more clean energy would save each PJM customer about $500 a year. This is real money to the families that I represent, whether it goes toward groceries, a car repair, or a child's activity. My colleagues and I are here today because PJM is uniquely positioned to right this wrong by opening the grid to clean, reliable, affordable energy and requiring large corporate users, energy generators, and electric distribution companies to play fair. PJM controls the interconnection queue. PJM sets the rules. And right now, those rules are blocking affordable, clean energy from getting onto the grid fast enough to even matter. We're not asking anyone to sacrifice. We're simply calling on PJM to meet the moment with honesty and accountability to the 67 million ratepayers across this region. We're not here to fight with PJM. We are here because we need PJM to work with us. Lawmakers, advocates, and ratepayers across this region are saying the same thing. Clean energy is the affordable energy. The math is clear and the path is clear. My constituents cannot wait for slow processes to catch up to a crisis that is already here. We need to let more clean energy onto the grid, make data centers pay their share, and lower costs for working families, and PJM needs to do their job. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Assemblyman Dave Bailey, Jr., and I represent the 3rd Legislative District in the General Assembly of the state of New Jersey. To put that in context for you that may not be familiar with where I'm coming from, if you travel an hour and 30 minutes up Route 95 and you cross either the Delaware Memorial Bridge or the Commodore Barry Bridge, you are in my district. In New Jersey ease, Exit 1 on the New Jersey Turnpike, for those of you. I want to thank my fellow members of the PJM legislative collaborators, specifically Senator Fry Hester, for hosting us today. It's great to be here for all the work that is being done. Yes. On behalf of our constituents, to hold PJM accountable for preventable rising electric costs. We need to continue to work together like this to share information and ideas to positively impact the lives of all 67 million people that we've heard over and over today in our 13 states and the District of Columbia. The rapid growth of data centers is straining supply and driving up the cost of electricity throughout the entire PJM region. I have made it a legislative priority to create guardrails for data center growth in New Jersey and ensure that tech companies and developers are paying their fair share costs of data center power usage and not my constituents. This March, I passed a bill establishing a large load tariff which requires developers to make upfront deposits and pay for the energy they claim their data centers are going to use. The bill also incentivizes flexible operation and the investment in new generation in our state. Tongue-in-cheek, we call it a prenup with our data center users and developers. Last month, I introduced legislation to ensure costs from the reliability backstop auction, which we're also hearing a lot about today, are paid by data centers and large load users. And the ratepayers of New Jersey aren't again left picking up that tab. That bill came directly from the work of this group and the work that they've been doing over the previous months, in the last 6 or 7 months or so. And I'm proud to partner with Senator Bob Smith from the state of New Jersey, who is also a member of this collaborative. I know that similar bills have been passed and introduced here in Maryland, in Pennsylvania, Virginia, and throughout the PJM region. But we can't do it alone. We need to continue working with PJM to implement policies that guarantee reliable and affordable power for every single one of the 67 million people in this region. We need to hold them accountable when they do not deliver on this mission. While I'm hopeful, given the information provided and the statements recently made by newly elected PJM CEO David Mills, when he stated, "These choices belong to the people and institutions with democratic accountability for their consequences," my immediate response is yes, I agree. But we also demand that PJM's voting structure be corrected to allow for a democratic, equal voting structure, not providing more power, and I would add self-serving, conflictual power to the large energy supply companies. So in my district, there's a 90-year-old widow. Lives on her own. She lives in the same home that she's been living in for 50 years now, fixed income. About 18 months ago, she required that I come to her home every month when she opens her energy bill, her electric bill, in front of me to hold me accountable for what the costs of that bill are. Now, I know there are some of you that are saying there's no way that a state legislator has committed to this every month, coming to this 90-year-old's home and having her hold him accountable and open this bill in front of me. Well, she happens to be my mother. And she's my barometer, one of my barometers, that holds my feet to the fire and lets me know what kind of job I am doing, what kind of job we are doing on the affordability front. It's been great to be with you today and spare a few moments of what's happening in New Jersey. Thank you so much for this collaboration and this partnership on this important effort. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jake Schwartz, and I'm with Chesapeake Climate Action Network, one of the co-hosts of today's event. At this point, most people know that PJM supports dirtier and more expensive forms of energy. The question is why? Why does PJM, why have they fast-tracked fossil fuel projects and kept fossil fuel projects online even after they're no longer profitable? It's as simple as this. A plurality of PJM members are either fossil fuel energy generators or utilities who are stuck in the past. PJM has this intrinsic bias towards fossil fuels, and that can be seen through the fact that most of the projects fast-tracked through their queue last year were fossil fuel projects. What we need now is a new way to view the capacity market in 2026. But what PJM got just the other week when they announced a new CEO was their old interim CEO and board chair taking over as new CEO and president. And if anyone passed through Penn Station on the way here this morning, they would see a billboard that showed that the new CEO has gotten a raise while Baltimore ratepayers are continuing to pay more. So much for a fresh perspective at PJM. And there's one other element to PJM's pro-dirty energy mindset that has increased rates that I want to make sure I touch on. BG&E ratepayers are paying an average $18 a month more than they were this time last year. And that's largely because of two fossil fuel plants, Brandon Shores and Wagner, that PJM mandated stay online even after their own owners wanted to retire them. This is all because PJM didn't have the right tools in their bureaucratic toolbox. The rule that they use to do this is known as reliability must run, or RMR, and because of that rule, these two plants have spewed an extra 4 million metric tons of CO2 into the atmosphere and kept Baltimore's rates artificially high over the last 2 years. That is a lose-lose scenario if I've ever heard one. And that's the exact type of governance malfeasance that PJM can and must reform. So on May 19th, PJM's Deactivation Enhancement Senior Task Force, or DESTIF, is going to have a vote on a series of reforms to this RMR rule. And any PJM voting member can vote, and we urge them all to vote for the reform package championed by Maryland OPC and other partners that would give PJM more options than just paying more to keep coal plants online to meet the demand. Surely we can have more options than that. Thank you all, and next I would like to introduce Laurel Peltier from the Maryland Energy Advocates Coalition.
Thanks, Jake. Good morning. It is lovely to see you. I am Laurel Peltier, a consumer energy advocate, and I chair Energy Advocates, our state coalition that includes AARP Maryland National Consumer Law Center and every nonprofit that touches low-income utility bills. We also work directly with thousands of Maryland families, helping them to manage their utility bills, and we have our finger on the pulse. Since 2020, the electricity cost for the average Marylander was $200 more for year two, then it was $400 more, $600 more, and we literally are closing in on $1,000 more per year. We've raced past a previous affordability crisis to a straight-up broken system. Our team partners with the state to run a call center for medically vulnerable people. And I'll share a story that could be copied and pasted for hundreds of thousands of families. The headline is, "The money wasn't there to begin with." A senior gentleman calls us a lot, and he needs financial and frankly emotional support because he is so stressed out. The ground rent alone for his mobile home has risen to $1,000 a month, and his $1,500 of fixed income leaves little room. He's already maxed out relatives to keep up with his $3,500 yearly BG&E bill. He's already taken his food money to pay the utility bill, and his neighbors are helping to feed him. To keep the kilowatt usage down, our team mailed a heated blanket because his health issues are immense. His retirement is now survival, and after all the help he's received, his BG&E bill is still $1,300 behind. I want to convey to the PJM that ratepayers are people, and many, and not just limited income, didn't have the extra money to begin with. I have an elderly lady who texted me last week, "Is there any more help? We just don't have the money, so I'm not paying my bill in full." Her account is now $1,200 behind. This point is supported by data as Maryland utility arrearages, that's the amount their customers owe them, is sky high. PSC data for February shows that Maryland utilities are 2 times higher now in their arrearages, and that this is since 2020, and that for low-income accounts, the arrearages are 3 times higher. People can only hit up their friends and family, get extra hours, stretch out their meds, and hit food pantries for so long before it's done. and I'm going to share with you, being out in the field, we're done. So what I ask the PJM is, we're thrilled that you're here in our beautiful Baltimore. And we ask its PJM and its members to choose the most nimble, cleanest, and fastest creative path to unstick this mess. Thank you very much. And I want to introduce you to Senator Shelley Heddleman. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shelley Heddleman. I'm a senator representing District 11 in Baltimore County. And as long as we're playing a little bit of geography, if you get on 83 and you go up a couple of miles and you pass into the county, you are in my district. And I have represented the fine folks of Baltimore County for the past 12 years, 6 of which have been in the Senate. We just concluded less than a month ago our 90-day legislative session. And my colleagues here, Delegate Charkoudian and Senator Fry Hester, and I worked very hard to pass a utility relief bill. It is a big bill. It has not yet been signed into law by the governor, but we anticipate that that will be happening tomorrow. And we did a lot of very important things there that can serve as a very important example to the folks who are meeting inside. The bill curbs what utilities have been passing on to ratepayers. It limits what utilities can request for rate increases. It requires data centers to pay a special tariff for their electric system demands. And it also sets up a new state funding stream for solar generation projects paired with battery storage devices. It makes temporary cuts to an energy efficiency surcharge on electric bills, saving ratepayers at least $150. That was not an easy decision to make to this very important program that we have and has been in place for a number of years to reduce demand, to set targets, and to be aspirational in terms of how we meet our energy demands. We have heard from our constituents about what Laurel just spoke about, the rising costs, the strain on the affordability, the monthly pain that they feel every time they open the utility bills. And we all feel it too. We had a special attention to lower income Marylanders, and we protected them by putting a cap on the amount of their income that can go towards electricity rates. And we hope to save them as much as $1,400 per year through this bill. We also changed some rate setting mechanisms that can be used by the utilities so that they can only recover costs from customers if they can show that the investments that they made were prudent, reasonable, and provide actual benefits to ratepayers. Setting rates based on forecasts allows companies to collect speculated capital investment and operational costs before they can actually demonstrate that they were necessary. And they were increasing what's our standard rate setting practices. And we paused this forecasting practice until mid-2027 while the Public Service Commission conducts a formal proceeding considering what rate making practice is best for the consumer. We also capped compensation at utility companies on any salary over $285,000, and we say it must come from the shareholders, not from the ratepayers. Somebody can be paid more, but it's not going to come out of the pockets of our constituents. It also creates an annual low bid auction in 27 and 28 to award grants to bidders to fund renewable energy general and energy storage projects that would be used to satisfy our renewable energy portfolio standard and uses some alternative compliance payments in the Strategic and Energy Investment Fund each year. And the funds have to be necessary for that project. We provide transparency for consumers, requiring that the Public Service Commission's forward-facing website be able to show how we're tracking the progress of our state energy programs and the goals that they oversee. We also require gas and electric companies to notify and share information to residential customers when they are initiating a base rate proceeding or any proceeding that could result in a distribution cost of more than 3%. We also directed investments through our Strategic Energy Investment Fund, created nearly 2 decades ago, with the goal of decreasing demand and increasing energy supply that would support affordable and reliable clean energy. And this C fund is funded through the sale of carbon dioxide emissions allowances under the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative through the Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard. Funds there will go to grants for renewable energy projects under the auction process, HVAC systems in schools, power plant research programs to review renewable and clean energy projects within the Department of Natural Environment, heat pump installation and replacements for low and moderate income households, and then investments in building and transportation electrification, thermal energy generation, the Maryland Clean Energy Center, and loan programs for nonprofit organizations. We are trying to be forward-thinking, initiating procurement reform, and then also requiring reports to see actually and to be able to measure how we're doing. We have stepped up to the challenge. It is difficult. These are very tough times, and we realize that we need to do a lot, both to require this new generation and to be attentive and responsive to the needs of our constituents. We have heard from them, and we are responding in a responsible and transparent manner. And we believe that PJM can do the same. They can be both responsive to the affordability issues and unlock the clean energy projects that have been stuck in their queue. We're stepping up to address these very real challenges we face, and we're here requesting that PJM do the same. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Heddleman. To close us out, we're pleased to welcome Maryland business owner Mr. Ronald Bethea, CEO of Positive Change Purchasing Cooperative and chairman of the board of directors of the National Association of Blacks in Solar. Thank you.
I want to thank Rebecca, the Maryland Conservation of Voters, and the Chesapeake, and all those advocacy organizations for holding this press conference this morning. I come here today with a heavy heart. First, I would like to also congratulate all of our 2026 college graduates. But I'd like to share with you a story about my niece. This is Aja McLeod. Say her name, Aja McLeod. Aja was a graduating senior from Bowie State University. Aja suffered from asthma since the day she was born as a small child. And at her graduation party, she loved to dance. She had an asthma attack and died. It rocked the foundation of my family. That's my why. Now, I want to turn my attention to the PJM organization and those gentlemen and those folks that are in the meeting here today, setting prices for us. I'm a Maryland resident. I live in Prince George's County. Me and my wife, we are fixed income folk. And you heard a lot of titles, but some of those titles came without a check. So if you know how that works out. Okay, but let's begin to focus on the PJM. The PJM interconnection queue has fundamentally stalled communities and utility-scale solar development across 13 state regions. Nearly 95% of the backlog projects are wind, solar, and battery storage. The delay in connecting new solar and wind projects on the grid is a major driver of recent price shocks in the PJM region. The impacts for consumer rates are the following. The historic price jump occurred for the 2025-2026 delivery year. Price skyrocketing from $28.92 to $269.92 per megawatt day. What that means to us in this region, it jumped and capacity costs up to $14.7 billion from $2.2 billion the previous year. Many of you may not be aware of the leadership of Governor Shapiro from Pennsylvania, our dynamic governor here, Westmore. They have been fighting this fight. Let me be clear. I'm trying to get back to some of the notes so I can sort of share with you the impact, because these are water, which is needed to cool off the gas turbine technology for these data centers, and as well as by us living in the PJM region, we have the largest build out of data centers of anywhere in the country, in the 13-state region. Matter of fact, we have between 550 to 600 data centers already online. Virginia leads the way with over 300 data centers in Loudoun County. Now, when we begin to look at the other impacts that the PJM decision makers will be making today, we need to begin to start looking at something called community solar. Community solar is a program that came out of the Greenhouse Gas Initiative. There was some $27 billion put in that plan, and through that initiative, there was something called the Justice 40 initiative. And it meant that 40% of that benefit is supposed to be going to low and moderate income ratepayers. Here in the PJM region and across the PJM region, most people are unaware that they are qualified ratepayers if they simply pay a bill to the electric utility bill. It is free. There is a fixed rate option where you can lock that in for 20 years. That means that bill will not go up in the community solar program. When people want to get out of the program, there's no exit fees for this. But the fact of the matter is, we have very poor community engagement and education to the 67 million ratepayers that are part of the PJM region. So in closing, I'd like to put out a challenge to some organizations that can make a difference and we can change the tide. Because everybody can talk about the problem, but what's a solutions? Now, my challenge is to the Pacifica Foundation, which operates 5 major radio stations. They are independent and 200 independent affiliates. The HBCU Radio Network, which works with over 29 radio stations across the country. The University Station Alliance, which works with 155 radio stations on historically white colleges and universities. Then we have the Public Media Content Collective, which are directors and programs for these stations. They have to come to the table. We must develop strategies so that we can fight back. To quote a mentor of mine, Dr. Calvin Rolock, who was the publisher of the Washington Forum in Washington, D.C., the only folks who are going to save us is us. We are the cavalry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. We're going to take a few questions, and then do a photo, and then folks will be available for interviews. So questions, yeah.
Alexis, I take it. Answer first. Yeah. Thank you for the question. The question was if folks didn't hear it, would the 800 new energy projects make a difference? So what we know is that after 6 years, 8 years of a completely broken queue, PJM started a process a couple of years ago. They closed the queue, so no new energy could get in. And now they have reopened with a new set of rules. It's instead of first come, first serve, it's first ready, first serve. They're doing batch analysis. They have some AI function to supposedly do the studies. So we'll see. Here's what I want to say about it. You know, I said earlier that it's late, and one of the really unfortunate things is they had a broken queue when the federal government was working really in close concert with us to get clean energy, which is the most affordable, least cost, fastest thing we can build. And now this fixed queue is coming online at a time when the federal government really is working against those clean energy and affordable energy strategies. So that's one of the challenges. This new queue does have a lot of storage in it. That's hopeful. It also has a lot of gas in it. And here's the thing, the other thing about the gas that's really important to know right now when we're talking about what's the quickest thing we can get online. The gas plants have a very long backlog on the supply chain. And so if PJM is counting on gas to get us out of this reliability and this affordability crisis, we're once more going to be doubling down on both the affordability problem and the clean energy problem, because the gas just can't be built fast enough. And so I think we're cautiously optimistic. At least we have an open queue, right? The queue has been closed for so long. At least now we have an open queue, and we'll wait to see how it ends up playing out. We don't yet know of the 800 that got in. They're now in the queue, but we don't yet know which ones are going to get processed, because PJM is now starting that process of figuring out what's going to get processed. So we'll be watching it very closely, and as we watch that process, the legislators here, and I'm sure the organizations, although I can't speak for them,